Welcome to this episode of One Drink, Three Bars. I'm your host, Bonnie. If you're returning as a subscriber,
thanks, ma'am.
If you're a new watcher, check out some of my other content and consider subscribing. Today we're going to pay tribute to one of my favorite movies, The Big Lebowski. It's a classic Coen Brothers film starring Jeff Bridges as a character called The Dude. And if you're unfamiliar with this character, he's basically a laid-back hippie type whose two favorite things are bowling and drinking White Russians. He sometimes refers to the White Russian as the Caucasian.
Another Caucasian, Gary.
Right, dude.
After I show you how to make a White Russian at home in the style of The Dude, we'll check out 3 different bowling alley bars to see how they do it. We'll visit Maple Hall, a hipster alley in downtown Knoxville. We'll visit Main Event, a family-oriented bowling and fun center. And we'll visit a classic alley. While the movie doesn't show an exact recipe for the White Russian, it does depict the dude preparing his drink on several occasions using Smirnoff. I'm going to go with a standard recipe using 2 parts vodka, 1 part Kahlua, and 1 part half and half. We're going to start out with the 2 ounces of vodka, and the dude doesn't measure his, but I'll do it since I've got this stuff out already. And we're going to do our 1 ounce of Kahlua. Of half and half. The dude stirs his with his finger, but I think I'm going to go ahead and splurge a little and use a spoon. And there we have it, our White Russian. It's pretty tasty, but that's just my opinion, man. Maple Hall has their own version of the White Russian called the Dude.
So the Dude is our favorite White Russian that we have here in Knoxville. Start with Tito's vodka. 1 ounce of Tito's vodka. My favorite part is we use Knox Whiskey Works Coffee Liqueur. It's made with locally roasted coffee, and I like it far better than Kahlua, which most White Russians use. And it gets about a half an ounce of that. Throw in a little half an ounce of simple syrup that we make in-house. And then it's topped with a little of locally, our local milk, Coos Farms milk, which is my favorite milk. And it's a little bit, it's thinner than half and half, which most places use. So, and that's our Dude. Thank you. You're welcome.
That is better than the one I made at home.
Yeah? What'd she do differently that's better?
She used the Knox Whiskey Works coffee liqueur instead of Kahlua. And all locally sourced products.
All locally sourced.
Main Event with Chris, and he's going to make me a White Russian here at Main Event.
First, I need ID.
Hey, wait, don't come over.
It's like super loud in here. I'm in a bowling alley. There's lots of games, there's lots of kids, there's loud music, but hopefully you can hear me okay. Chris made a White Russian just like the one I made at home and very similar to the one the dude made in the movie. He used, it looked like about 2 ounce vodka, then a little bit of Kahlua and 4 packets of the little half and half, like the little individual packages of half and half. So I just got out of main event. I walked up to the bar and I asked the first guy who approached me, hey, is there anyone here who kind of likes being on camera who would want to be on a video? And this other guy working there named Chris kind of perked up and asked, do I need to take my pants off? And I told him, like, no, it's not that kind of YouTube channel. Even though he seemed a little disappointed, he made a pretty good White Russian. And yeah, I thought that was like pretty cool. It was getting kind of packed with families and kids. It's approaching like Friday night territory, but they weren't too slammed yet. So thanks to them for a successful stop. To get on the interstate in time, and I randomly passed this really cool looking bowling alley called Midtown Bowl, and I was looking for kind of a classic retro looking bowling alley to get a White Russian, so I'm in line at their bar now, and we'll see if they can make them here. So here I am at Midtown Bowl off of, I think it's Monroe Drive in Atlanta, and I would definitely call this an awesome classic bowling alley, but it's like really well kept. It's in great shape. The bartender was really cool. I forgot his name, but he was camera shy and said that he had a face for radio and that he would rather me just tell you about the drinks. So it's a classic White Russian. He used Kahlua. He used Wheatley vodka, which is made by the Buffalo Trace Distillery, which is better known for making bourbon. And just the usual half and half. He lamented the fact that he didn't have fancier glassware ready because I stopped in at noon. But, this classic plastic cup, it's kind of what you'd expect with a bowling league, so that's cool. Speaking of leagues, this place, they do bowling leagues, they do fun leagues, they do open bowling. It's really nice, and I wish I'd known it was here when I lived here. This place was super cool. Midtown Bowl, and I just saw that we're at the intersection of Monroe and Piedmont, so if you're in the Atlanta area, definitely check out this classic alley and get a White Russian. So that was fun. Let's compare the 4 versions of the White Russian. We'll start with the one I made at home. I used 2 ounces of Smirnoff vodka, an ounce of Kahlua, and half and half from the gas station on the corner. Very doodly. I will note mine is the darkest in color because I did use an ounce of Kahlua instead of a half an ounce. The other 3 tended to use more half and half or milk. The Maple Hall version was probably the most interesting because they deviated from using Kahlua and used a local product, Knox Whiskey Works Coffee Liqueur, in its place. They also used Cruz Farms milk instead of half and half. Since the milk is a little thinner, theirs also appears a little darker than the 2 from Main Event and Midtown Bowl. Like I said, all of the products, except the Tito's vodka, were local products. And a fun fact about Tito's vodka, even though the dude uses Smirnoff in the movie, when Jeff Bridges makes a White Russian in real life, he prefers to use Tito's. So maybe that's why Maple Hall opted to use that instead of Smirnoff. Next we have the kind of big box chain family fun center, Main Event. They made a pretty standard White Russian. It was good. It cost $7.49. They used Sobieski vodka, which I had never heard of, but I looked it up when I got home and it's a mid-range vodka comparable to Smirnoff. They also used about half an ounce of Kahlua, and they didn't have a big container of half and half, so they just used those little canisters like they give you for your coffee, but hey, they worked fine. And there is one point in the Big Lebowski where the dude uses the coffee mate powder to make his White Russian, so I feel like the little canisters would be a little better than that. Finally, the classic bowling alley, Midtown Bowl, didn't disappoint. They made a pretty by-the-book White Russian as well. They used Wheatley vodka, which is made by the Buffalo Trace Distillery, better known for bourbon. I also really liked Midtown Bowl's atmosphere because it was an old school bowling alley, and they even had like references to the Big Lebowski on their bowling lanes. They had a very big, extensive bar with a lot of craft beer and a lot of craft cocktail ingredients. So I'd really like to go back there. I liked all 4 of the White Russians. My favorite one was the one at Maple Hall. I like the name of it. They call it The Dude. And I also like the fact that they use local products like Knox Whiskey Works Coffee Liqueur. It's a good substitution for Kahlua. Which of the White Russians did you think sounded the best? Leave me a comment and let me know. Also, if you like this video, please consider liking it and subscribing to my channel. Thank you.
That about does her. Wraps her all up.